Hey guys, this is Missy, and this is going to be your monthly in-service for March. And today we are going to talk about risk management and our disaster plan. So the first thing that we're going to talk about in regards to risk management is mitigation. And mitigation is basically managing the risk to our patients in regards to disaster preparedness. Now, I know we talked a little bit about this recently when we talked about the changes to our disaster plan whenever we moved, but I just want to go over a couple of key points here today with you guys. So the first thing that we do is whenever we admit a patient, we assess them for their need for assistance during a disaster, and so we call that triaging our patients, and we assign those patients a triage number 1, 2, 3, or 4. And so all patients are assessed by the admitting clinician or RN, and they are assigned a triage number. Patients assigned the number 1, obviously, are those highest patients that would be in need of assistance during a disaster. And then patients that are designated as a 4 would be the patients that would need the least amount of assistance. Also, something that we do on admit is that we educate patients on the preparedness of their own home in the event of a disaster. So there's a packet in that home folder that they have that the RN or the admitting clinician goes over with the patient. So we do that on admit, but of course we don't want to just do it once and forget about it. We want to go back and touch base on that with the patient every so often. So it is up to you clinicians in the home, nurses, therapists, to ever so often maybe question the patient regarding their knowledge of their own emergency preparedness. They need to have things like bottled water and batteries and a plan in place that if there is a disaster and they have to evacuate, what they're going to do. We also educate them on what we're going to do if there is a disaster. So we talk about their triage level and what would happen in the event that there is a disaster in this area. Now, obviously, hopefully there's not ever a big disaster where the whole area has to be evacuated, but we do have to plan accordingly for that. So we let the patients know what their triage level is and what their responsibilities are in the event of a natural or man-made disaster in our area. And once again, that is done on admit, but we also want to go back and touch base with these patients every so often. This is one of the things that the RN reviews at every 60 days at recert. And so we assess for changes if we need to change their disaster plan or their triage level. But we do know that sometimes things do change mid-cert. We have a patient that their condition deteriorates, or maybe they have a new fracture, and so their mobility level has changed. So obviously, if this happens, we need everybody to have some input on this, maybe talk to that case manager regarding the need for their triage level to be updated in the system. So if something does happen mid-cert, make sure we get those case managers involved in updating that for those patients. And finally, on one last note on risk management and mitigation, the state service 211 is available for all patients to register for. Now, the number 211 is simply just the state intake line for all state benefits. And so when you call 211 or have your patient call 211, you want to make sure that you're letting them know that you're calling to register these patients for evacuation assistance in the event of a disaster. And so this would be crucial for these patients that are bedbound, or that it would be a significant hardship for them to suddenly have to up and leave their home. We do have some of these patients on service, and so for all of our bedbound patients, or for our patients that are not really mobile, we want to make sure that we assist them with this process. We want to call that number with them in the home and get them registered. It doesn't take very long. You basically give them their demographic information, phone number, address, and what type of assistance they would need. One last note on that, we want to also make sure that our patients that are dependent on oxygen in the home, that they have filled out that form and sent it to their electric company, so that the electricity company knows that there is oxygen in the home, and that makes them a reconnect priority in the event of a power outage. There are other things that have to be assessed with oxygen in regards to backup oxygen, so that's a different topic, but we want to make sure that we are making plans for these patients in the event of an emergency. So now I want to talk a little bit about the disaster plan for our agency. This is a requirement from DADS, CMS, and the Joint Commission that we have a plan in place in regards to how our agency would respond to a disaster in regards to our patients and the needs of the community. Now, we have gone over this plan pretty recently with you guys, so we're going to just touch base on a few of the important parts again that we are required to talk to you about annually. Once again, this plan is reviewed and updated annually, and we do have, it's in our policies and procedures regarding the types of things we're going to do and the need for a plan. We do have a drill yearly for this, and it's usually in the summer, but this is an unannounced drill, and so you guys won't know when we're going to have that drill. The last drill we had was last year in regards to all the flooding that was going on last summer, so you guys just be on the lookout. We'll have a drill at any given point in time, and that's just to make sure you guys know how to respond appropriately and to make sure that our plan's working. And we do go back and we do evaluate what worked and what didn't work and what we need to change and that sort of thing. Some of the key points to our emergency preparedness and response plan, or our disaster plan is another term for it, is like where we will operate from. The primary command center after an incident will be the office, as long as it is functional and still standing. In the event of a major disaster, if there's major damage done to our office, and the alternate command center would be Brian and Angie's house. The address for that is 485 Burris Drive, and that's it's a dial address, but it is near the Pentecostal campground. So you guys all have that on the back of your badges. And you guys have all been there too, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. Our disaster coordinator is Brian. In the event that he is not available, the alternate disaster coordinator is myself. And obviously, if something major does happen or if anything happens, we'll both be there functioning. But for all intents and purposes, Brian is our head disaster coordinator. Okay, so I'm going to skip around just a little bit here on the in the event of an actual emergency slide, and I'm actually going to refer to the Emergency Preparedness Plan Clinical Staff Responsibilities handout that you guys have. So there are four sections to our Emergency Preparedness Plan. They are preparedness, mitigation, response, and recovery. And so I'm going to briefly cover the clinical staff responsibilities that you guys have regarding each one of these four phases. So with preparedness, obviously we want to stay prepared for in the event of a disaster. And so you guys need to make sure that you have arrangements made for personal issues to be taken care of in the event of a disaster, like you have backup childcare, backup, as far as keeping your own home stocked with groceries and water and that sort of thing. We ask that you keep your cars full of fuel. You guys aren't supposed to park cars here with less than a quarter of a tank, so make sure that you're keeping fuel in those cars, especially during hurricane season. Have your company phone list for the employees handy at all times on your clipboard. If you don't have a current copy of that, make sure that you see Fern to get one of those. She emails that out periodically as it's been updated, so check your email too if you don't have a copy. Make sure that you are aware of your patient's triage rankings and that you're educating your patient on the emergency plan periodically. And make sure we're ensuring those patients that are on continuous oxygen at home, that they have their emergency backups in place, and those have been checked recently. As far as mitigation, which is eliminating risk, we want to make sure that we're educating those patients and families on emergency planning and assisting them in making their own plans as well. You should attend and participate in the emergency preparedness and response training, which you are doing right now. That we are reviewing and updating those patients' triage classifications at least every 60 days. So our case manager should be taking care of that. And that we are registering those patients that would need assistance in the event of an emergency with 211. Okay, so now let's talk about what you guys would actually do in the event that there is an identified disaster. So the first thing that our plan says will happen is that the disaster coordinator will say, okay, this is a disaster and we're going to initiate our response portion of our emergency preparedness and disaster response plan. And so at that point in time, we would start a call tree for the staff, which means Brian and I would be contacting you guys in regards to what needs to happen now. However, if there is no phones or no phone service, then it's up to you guys to listen to KICS 105.1 or KSML 101.9 and or watch KTRE for instructions. We will notify those places with regards to what you guys need to do. Do you need to sit and hang tight, or do you need to report to the office, that sort of thing. If there are no means of communication available, I mean, there is massive destruction here. All staff who can safely travel will report to the office. If the office is compromised, then you're to report to the home office, which is Brian and Angie's house at 485 Burris. From there, we will initiate a triage calling list. So we're going to go down and make contact with those patients based on their emergency triage level to see where they are, if they're okay, have they been relocated, that kind of thing. We're going to visit all patients as possible based on time, disaster relation, and their plan of care. So we're going to attempt to continue to provide care. Now, if that's not possible, what we will do is we're going to go by their triage level, which is 1, 2, 3, or 4. We're going to obviously get to those 1s and 2s first. We're going to keep the physicians advised of the patient's status as contact is made. We will continue to deliver supplies, medication, and equipment as directed, and we will assist with the coordination of transportation of those patients that are requiring assistance. So if we have patients that their homes are badly damaged and they're going to need to go to, say, a special needs shelter, which our county will have set up, usually it's at the convention center downtown, then we would coordinate transportation for those patients that require assistance. Now, the last phase of our emergency preparedness plan is recovery. And so in the recovery phase, we're going to go back and we're going to document any incidents that did occur, patients that went without medication, if there were any injuries related to the disaster. We are going to review the activities of our disaster response, and you guys are going to help provide feedback to me. You're going to notify administration of any problems that you encountered during the first visits that were made during the response portion of the plan. Contact the patient prior to the recovery visit to check the status and offer support if needed. We're going to reclassify those patients for triage, and we're going to update our records in regards to where they're located. We're going to attempt to resume our visit schedules as previously planned, and we're going to assist patients and families with updating their personal emergency plan in their home. Okay, this is the clinical staff responsibilities handout that I discussed in the previous slide. I just wanted you to see a picture of it so you would know what I was talking about. And you should all have a copy of this because it was given to you a couple of months ago during case conference. However, if you do not, you can just email me or see me and I can get you another copy of it. Okay, guys, that wraps us up for this monthly in-service. I have attached to this email a quiz. It's a little 5-question short quiz that'll be confirmation that you did participate in the in-service. So please print that out, answer those 5 questions, and bring that back by the office. You can put it in Fern's box or my box here at the office. If you are a person who does not regularly come into the office, or if you are PRN staff, you can either print that out, answer it, and bring it by if you would like, or you can fax it to us at 632-4275, or you can just reply back to this email specifically just to me with your answers. Just make sure number them 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So please just make sure you guys do that quiz because that is your confirmation that you did participate in the in-service, and I will need that back by Friday, March the 25th. So you guys have a good day. Thanks for listening. Bye, guys.